When I was young, my father usually said, because it's something that when I was young, it was kind of a clash for me because I didn't, school. I told you my story about school. Okay, my experience in the public school of my country. Yeah, I know. I probably made video. I was laughing, and probably it seems like, yeah, because I was telling you how teach what we are torturing kids at school. But we will talk about that later. But don't only see the part comic or the part that I was laughing, humoristic or whatever. See the part that the main idea under the story I was telling you. If you go back to my previous video, yeah, I told story about that. Yeah, probably I was laughing, but it was painful. It was a torture to go to school, to public school. I will get to that later on in a more serious way. My father always taught to me something. Education is important. No matter what you can do, he always remind me that education, my daughter, you still need education anyway. Even if you get married, you still have to have your education and have your independence in certain way. And I'm telling you, when I was young, I was just tired to hear this word every time. But as I became older and adult, I understand what my father meant. I mean, for him, I'm sometimes trying to look example or role model outside on my own home, but I didn't know that my own father was my own role model when it comes to education and what he has achieved when he was young and when he was alive. I didn't know all that. After that, I discovered so many things about him after he passed away, you know. But my father, if I knew, I should have probably worked on his, follow his footsteps. I didn't know much, but I always remember these words. You need your education. And if you say to someone that education is not important, I will just remind you quote of Malala. Malala, she's an activist from Pakistan, I think. Pakistan, if I don't, I'm not wrong. I talk about her a little bit in my blog when I talk about women, I was talking about violence made to women and da. And she has a quote that I never forgot that she say often. She say, one child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world. So yeah, it it probably maybe it's just a quote of a child. I don't know of a little girl, but when you really understand what she say in this quote, it has a lot. It is deep. You have a child who talks about one teacher, one pen, one book, and you can change the world. That's what she felt like about education. Malala almost lost her life because of education, because she asked that girls should have access to education in her country. She almost died for what she believed in. You have countries in Africa, even in some part of my places, in my own country, in some part, if you see the level of education now, my country was among the French African country at the time, what we say during the 70s or the 80s. Yeah, I was born in 1980, but I read a lot about history a lot. Gabon was one of the countries that were really, we call it alphabetization in France. I don't know how you say that in English, that people were educated. The population had a lot of access to education. It didn't happen anyhow. It started with the first president of Gabon who really wanted the population to have access to education because himself, the first president of Gabon didn't last long in power. He was really convinced that education was very important. And that's something that he passed to his children. And my father, who was his nephew, also who was living with him, learned from him that education was important. And my father also told me the same thing. And I will have a video really special when I will talk about what he did, my father, as a person, and why I believe that I should do my part when it comes to the youth of my country. Why I believe that probably maybe later on, I don't know, but feel like I have a call for youth people. No. If you tell to Malala such word that education is not important, it will be an insult because yeah, she almost died for that. And in some countries, you have women who cannot read. What does it mean? You know what it means. You are more vulnerable to society. I saw an influence of my country, a lady. She lives in France. She's French too. She went to a country in West Africa. She went to an NGO who were empowering women, who were teaching women also the basic of reading. Women, adult women. It moved me so much to see women who have my mother's age who were learning to read little by little sentences. It moved me a lot. The desire to learn, the desire to have access to education. It was, it moved me so much. And these are countries where it's very completely conservative and traditionalist and very strict religious, stuff like that people don't like in general, I think. And you have women who are fighting to get access to education. Is education important? Yeah, there are people who have their lives changed. They survive, they went through, and they even had access to their dream. They could even reach to their dream because they had access to education, because some of them had chance to have education. I believe it's still important. People will say, yeah, but it's not important. I make money. Yeah, you make money. Okay, because you didn't go to school, maybe. Lucky for you. But tell me how many people in the world will make easily money without going to school first. I know that today people will say, but when you look the program in school today, when you go to some countries, you have program in school from developed countries especially, some program that you wonder, what is this again? I understand that. But for us in Africa, we need, and I'm asking to our African leaders, African president, to really do something about education, to empower more and more women and to give access to education to children as much as possible, to make things possible for them to go to school. And that take me straight to the situation in my country in the third video.